Joining BYU Sports Nation now, a man who was an elite quarterback at BYU, John Beck on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. John, welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so we need to start with your current status. You've been playing with the BC Lions, and you suffered an injury, and we jokingly said it's the most manly injury ever, a pectoral injury. What's the status with what you're dealing with right now, John?
Well, they ended my season. I essentially got put on what's called the 6-game IR up there. So with only really 6 games left to go in the season before they get into the playoffs, it was essentially, over. So especially because I wasn't with my family, like my wife and kids were back home, I just felt like, well, instead of staying up here to rehab for what would be, a potential playoff game, we don't even know if we're in or not, being out for 6 weeks, not getting to practice all that time, I and my coaches just kind of felt like, probably the best thing for me to do is to head back home, do my rehabilitation back here, and just be with my family. So, it's a way crummy that it ended, my season, especially because I was getting to be the starting quarterback up there and felt like things were just, starting to get rolling for our team who had been kind of struggling a little bit. And, but at the same time, I'm sitting here right now playing catch with my 4-year-old. So life's all right.
With Ty?
Ty's the 8-year-old. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old. I'm with the 4-year-old right now.
Wow. That's awesome. John Beck's on BYU Sports Nation. When you look at maybe your future with the BC Lions, is there something there? Are you going to try and continue in the CFL next year?
No, I'm done. It's time to just move on. I have a lot of exciting things outside of football, yet still connected to football, that have been kind of going on the last 3 years during my off seasons. And to be quite honest as well, it was getting harder for me to be away from my wife and kids. I'm definitely a person that loves being around his family. And the sacrifices that I was having to make to play in Canada, they were just getting to be really, really hard. And, my dream was the NFL, and I experienced the NFL. It didn't go like I wanted, and a part of me just wanted to keep playing football because I just felt like I always landed in these weird situations, and I just wanted to kind of finish off having fun playing ball. And I was able to go up there and be in a situation where I played for the game. Like there was no other reason to go up to Canada other than I just liked playing football, and I liked practicing and preparing. And the other thing that was fun was Austin Collie and I got to be roommates this last year.
Yeah.
We were roommates every game on the road. When our families went home for school, Austin and I lived together, and that was pretty cool to have a teammate from 11 years ago be my teammate again, and to have our NFL experiences and all the experience we've had since then. And every day when we drove home from practice, we just talked ball, talked philosophical things offensively, talked about our team, and it was just neat to kind of have a life experience with somebody at a young age, leave them, have more football experiences, and then come back and be with them again and kind of see how we each grew up and we have our families. It was a lot of fun.
So just to put a bow on this, are you saying you're retiring from football?
Well, I'm not retiring from football because I definitely want to play in some flag football leagues. Listen, the love of football will never leave me, and it took me a long time. I always had this mentality, like, as long as I want to play football, I will play football. And when I came off my mission, I looked at guys that had played till they were 40, 41 years old, and I said, that is what I will be, and I will do everything I possibly can from a work standpoint, a sacrifice standpoint, to be that guy. But in all reality, the sacrifices that you have to make to play that long, especially if you're not in a situation where you've established yourself with the franchise, or you've been a starting quarterback that's played in 30, 40 games, and you know that when a team brings you in, it's to be their backup or to compete for the starting job. The situations that I was in later in my career were opportunities to try to get back into the NFL or try to hang on to playing football. And so it took me a little while to realize, you know what, I could sit here and keep dragging this on and keep trying to play ball, but, it's hard on your family, it's hard on your kids, and I can find other ways. I really enjoy, playing catch with my kids. I mean, yesterday I played a street football game with my 6-year-old, just me and him, and we played for 30 minutes. And you know what? It got a little bit of my football fix. So I know I'll find ways to still enjoy the game but I'm still one of those guys that's going to be looking for a squad to put together for a flag football tournament here there.
John Beck with us on BYU Sports Nation. We're always looking for an intramural flag football quarterback up here, John, so we'll just put that out there. You let us know if you're interested.
Bring me up and then put me part of the pregame show, and we can make it work.
Okay, well, now you bring up an interesting point, John. You're a talented guy. You're very well-spoken, and you and I have had some offline discussions about potential. You could do media. You could do coaching. You are a guy that is multi-talented. So what is it that you want to pursue surrounding football now that your playing career is over?
Well, I really enjoy the stuff that I've been doing with Tom House in L.A. The opportunity to work with professional and collegiate quarterbacks has been a lot of fun, and I really enjoy also working with the younger guys. We get a lot of high school kids from across the country or the L.A. Orange County area that come to us, and I really enjoy working with the quarterbacks. It's a position that since I was 7 years old and I started going to stake centers, sitting with my dad watching Ty Detmer play. That's all I had to be the quarterback. And, you know, it's a journey. It's a roller coaster of ups and downs. And you have to deal with so many situations. It's really hard because you have to learn to deal with a lot of things that are out of your control. And it's this finite balance between preparation and confidence and risk and taking chance. It's just this crazy thing that it's easy to sway off of that little balance. And that's what makes it exciting, because it's such a challenge. When you do get to play and compete at a high level and you play your best, it's so rewarding. And yet the lows, they're really hard to deal with, but there's that thing when you're in that low, that there's that fight within you. And I love that fight to like climb back and to like try to bounce back. And then I'm like that pursuit of being the best you can be. And I think there's no position in sports like the quarterback position because it's so demanding. So I really enjoyed all of the aspects that I've been able to be a part of with Tom, the training side of things, the mental side of things, all of that stuff. So that's kind of my direction I'm going. I'm working on getting a master's degree right now in sports performance and conditioning. I have desires to go get another one in sports psychology, and just kind of to see the way that Tom has mentored the people that he brings in, the athletes he brings in. I've learned so much. That's the direction I want to go, and I'm still leaving a lot of doors open. I had a conversation with Greg Wrubell on the field at the Michigan game about, potential media stuff. And so I definitely want to have avenues open, because I know that stuff that I do with Tom, it's not full-time, but it's definitely a passion that I've always had in my life, and it's been an avenue that I've been able to continue that and know that I can go that direction even when my playing days are done.
Well, if you visit Provo, let's get you on the pregame show at least. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, I'd love to do it. I even, it's funny, this morning when I knew I had this interview, I was like, you know what, I wonder if these guys would be interested in, like, a breakdown of the opponent so the fans can kind of know, like, exactly what we're up against once they do, like, what the defense is doing scheme-wise, what they're trying to have BYU play into and what we need to do to attack them.
That's a yes, John.
So, are you ready with Connecticut information?
Hey, if you guys can find a way to give me some UConn tape, I enjoy sitting in front of a TV breaking down film. It's something I really like. So we'll have to talk about this when the show gets, like, as soon as we get off the air or something, or later on today.
Let's talk about Michigan. You were there at the Big House, obviously on the field, and had that view. But one, what was that experience like at the Big House? And then two, what did you see in the game?
I mean, it was very cool to be there. I mean, that's kind of why I also went. Like, I had just got put on IR the day before I flew out for the game. So it was kind of like a quick talking to the people up at the front office for BYU, the kind of the football relations guys, and them getting me out there. But I'm so glad I did, because what a cool experience to be in that stadium. What a cool experience to kind of soak in the atmosphere. The Michigan fans were, so nice, like, just awesome. It really kind of hurt that we had to go out there and have that type of a game, because, the excitement before the game was awesome. The feeling in the stadium was awesome. But, crap happens, right? And I don't for one second think that, like, oh, man, our guys just showed up. They just didn't give any effort or anything. I know that's the easy thing for people outside to say, but I've just been on too many teams where you walked into a stadium and you're giving full effort, and you gave your full effort of preparation during the week, and then all of a sudden, it just sucks, and things just go crappy. And, I think that's where also, like leadership on a team, that's where that comes really into play. And, I'm not trying to knock any certain person, but I just know the veteran presence of, like, somebody like Taysom, like, you can't just have a young guy just do that. That comes with the experience. That comes with the ups and downs that Taysom has experienced. And then he has like this thing about him where when he stands on the field or when he's in the huddle, there's just a presence, and you just know. And I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but I just know what it felt like to be a freshman going into games, and I know what it felt like being a senior going into games when the crap was hitting the fan. You know, a lot of people always would be like, hey, what happened that third quarter against the University of Utah? How come you guys couldn't get things going? Well, it's football. I've been in NFL games where I've seen Tom Brady not get things going. I've seen Peyton Manning not get things. That's part of football. That's the ebbs and flows of the game. Sometimes you just have quarters where things don't work. But when you have somebody with veteran leadership, there's just that he knows, hey, we'll get things back on track. I'm not worried. There's no panic button. I think last year when we heard Aaron Rodgers say that, hey, relax, we got this. There's that kind of feeling. So, you know, it's part of the opportunity of the quarterback to gain more experience and have that. But at that point, it's a hard situation for a young quarterback to be in when he doesn't have that experience, and yet everybody's hoping he can do something or be the president to turn things around.
Former BYU NFL and CFL quarterback John Beck on BYU Sports Nation. You brought up the name Taysom Hill. We saw you talking with him on the sideline before the game. What was that conversation like, John, and what do you want to see Taysom do with his football career?
Well, you know, it was really hard for me to watch and see what happened with Taysom. I told him that, you know, just, man, like, I feel so bad for you. Like, I've seen it so many times, though, in sports, especially at the professional level. I've just seen so many guys battle back from one serious injury to just have another one happen. And it's the most unfortunate thing in sports because everybody faces different scenarios. People land in bad situations. People, you know, they get on teams where they don't mess with the coaches, and it's a nightmare for them all during the season. But, like, the injury thing is the hardest one because especially when you know this person has all of the potential in the world to have an unbelievable run, and it's an injury that's not letting him do it. That's the hard part. So, you know, Taysom and I just talked about that, the frustrations of trying to handle those situations, having the right perspective. Taysom's an unbelievable person. I even came home and told my wife this. The conversation that I had with Taysom and the perspective that he has gained from this, I said, wow. Like, here I am, 34 years old, and, I mean, I'm working on holding onto that same perspective just because of some of the things that I've been through in football. And here's this young man, still a senior in college, and I was wowed by the perspective that he had, the way that he was handling it. It was still hard for him, but, you know, he has a great head on his shoulders. And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about football. We talked about life outside of football. We talked about pursuing things even after you've gone through so much adversity and kind of the risk involved, because there's no guarantee that you're going to have the magical ending to a story. I've experienced this a number of times where you feel like I've been through adversity. There's got to be something right around the corner to make all of this come full circle and end with something fantastic. And, you know, my experiences tell me that's not always the case. You know, there's still risk involved. So Taysom has a lot of things that he's trying to figure out, but he's definitely in the right direction with his thoughts and what he's trying to do. And I'm not going to say all the things that we talked about, but, you know, he is being very smart with the decisions that he's making. So wherever that takes him, I don't know where it's going to go or what decision he'll make, but it will be the right one. I know that.
On the other side of that, there's now Tanner Mangum, the freshman quarterback. He became the 7th freshman to start a game at BYU. You are in that group as well. What kind of advice have you given Tanner Mangum in his pursuit of becoming one of those good BYU quarterbacks?
You know, Tanner and I really haven't communicated like a whole lot. I mean, really, I just can't remember what game it was. A friend of mine was friends with his brother and was like, hey, you should send Tanner a text. I'm like, yeah, I should. I just, you know, text him a little friendly thing, and we joked around about the number 12 and, you know, how he's trying to do a good job of playing to the number 12, and I said, well, you're doing a great job, and, you know, just kind of that little thing. And I said it on the interview I did with Criddle about wanting, I really wanted to just, like, honestly just put my arm on his shoulder pad and just kind of smile after the Michigan game and say, listen, dude, this is only going to make you better. Because that's the truth of it. You know, I think Tanner as a player is way further ahead of where I was as a freshman in his understanding of things and in his experience level. But I do know what it feels like when you have been out of football for that long. You've been out of the pocket. Those things that are like your sixth sense, your sixth football sense that everybody used to pat you on the back for with, how did you feel that? Or, how did you see that window, or how, they almost feel slightly like you're having to relearn those. And you didn't even know where they came from before. They just happened because of all the football you were playing. And now you're having to go back and find them. Like, I got to find out how I was doing that. And, when I was there on the sideline from the game, the thing that I saw was, and this happens to every quarterback, I don't care what level you play on, even the guys that have been doing it for 10 years professionally, at times in a game, it can just, things seem cloudy, things seem slightly more sped up than you're used to, and you're feeling a little out of sorts. And, I'm sure that he was feeling that. I felt that. There's times where you feel like you understand what's going on. There's times when you feel like you don't really understand what's going on. You're having to relearn so much of football. And, I thought Michigan, the game plan that they had, from what I've seen the other teams do against BYU when Tanner was on the field and what I saw Michigan do, I thought they were very intelligent with the game plan that they had, because I really think that Coach Harbaugh had an impact on it, because he played quarterback, and he knows, here's what you do when you got a young quarterback. Here's the way you play him, and this is what's going to be the hardest thing for him to do. UCLA didn't always do that. They had a different approach based off of a small sample size, and they were not going to let the big passing plays and scrambling out of the pocket get them. So they made sure we're going to make him slowly move the ball down the field and move the chains, getting first downs. And there were times that we were able to do that. But Michigan had a different approach. We were going to put pressure on, and we were going to get in the face of his receivers, and we're going to make it difficult for them to get open and difficult for that quarterback to stand in the pocket and make a play. And it is. I don't care who you are. When you can get that type of pressure on the quarterback and he doesn't have guys creating enough separation, it's hard.
As we try and spin this forward and look at BYU taking on UConn on Friday night, John, where would you start? I mean, we've seen the highest of highs, the Hail Mary at Nebraska, the improbable ending against Boise State, good game against UCLA and a tough 1-point loss, and then this aberration against Michigan. So where is BYU, and what do you want to see from them starting against UConn? Well,
obviously, we know that they're competitive people by nature, so they're going to come out wanting to prove something. This was a team that had very high expectations heading into the season, and I know that everybody wants to say, well, once they can't make the big bowl, oh, man, they're not in the conference, they got nothing to play for. I think from an outside perspective that may be what they're thinking, but from a competitor, when you put the helmet on and you step out on the football field, you're trying to win every single game, regardless of what that game's for. So obviously Connecticut is not probably going to be the same caliber of opponent, but I would bet you that they're going to try to match a lot of the things that Michigan did. Now, from a standpoint of personnel, they may not have the same personnel. When I was standing on the sideline, Michigan had a cornerback that I said, who's I standing by? Brian Keel. And I was like, golly, this is like an NFL-looking DB, even big for the NFL standards. Like, he looks like somebody the Seattle Seahawks would want to go after. So they had some guys. We might say, how come our big guys couldn't get open? Well, they had some big guys that were manning them up pretty good. So I would say UConn is probably going to go out and try to do some of the things they saw Michigan do if their personnel can handle it. You cannot ask somebody that's not capable of the job to do that job. They still are going to play to their strengths, so that's why you have to say, okay, well, what has Connecticut done in their past 4 games that has given them opportunities for victory or that has slowed down the opponent from a defensive standpoint? So all of those things are going to come into play, but I think especially coming back to LaVell Edwards Stadium, the last time they were there, they had a miraculous finish. Coming off of a loss, they still have a lot to prove. There's a stretch of the season where they probably feel like we can win out. And that mentality, I think, will carry them into this game.
John, great stuff. Always nice to talk to you. We appreciate the insight into your football career and what you're pursuing, and a look at the BYU quarterbacks. We will be in contact very, very soon.
All right. Sounds good, guys.
John Beck on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.